All right, so today we're going deep on Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, though we're not gonna like rehash the whole Facebook story, everyone knows that. This is more about how his decisions have shaped, well, not just social media, but global communication,
Right,
right?
exactly. So we're going beyond the headlines, the lawsuits, the privacy stuff. We're digging into like the
Yeah, Mark
strategy.
Game.
Yeah, the long game, exactly. And of course the metaverse, that whole thing.
How it all connects to the bigger picture in tech,
Mhm.
antitrust, philanthropy, all that.
Oh, and I almost forgot, the guy learned Mandarin. We'll come
Yeah.
back to that, but keep it in mind. It's relevant.
It is. It kind of shows he's thinking way ahead. You know what I mean?
Okay, so starting point, Zuckerberg the coder. I was reading about ZuckNet, that messaging program he built like as a teenager.
It's classic, right? Young entrepreneur sees a need, builds a solution. Even back then, he was like that.
But he didn't stop there. I mean,
Yeah.
dropping out of Harvard to focus on Facebook, that takes guts.
And it paid off, at least at first. But that's where things get, well, complicated, that whole Winklevoss lawsuit.
Yeah, Zuckerberg won legally, but
But it raises a question that we still, haven't fully answered. How do you give credit for ideas when tech moves so fast? It's all collaborative.
and does that get even trickier when you're talking about a platform with, what, billions of users?
Yeah.
It's not just credit anymore, it's their data too.
Absolutely. Think about it. Your data, likes, even your private messages, it's all in a system controlled by one guy.
So how do you balance that? Connecting the world, but also, protecting people's privacy.
That's the tightrope Zuckerberg's been walking, and honestly, there's no easy answer. Some say more regulation, others say that'll stifle innovation.
It's a debate bigger than just Facebook, right? It's the whole internet.
Exactly. And then you add in the acquisitions, Instagram, WhatsApp. That wasn't just business, that was consolidating power.
Right. Like, he basically controls how a huge chunk of the world communicates online.
And that brings up the whole antitrust thing. Did those acquisitions stifle competition, or were they, necessary to build what Facebook is today?
I mean, he did build services billions of people use daily, but, at what cost?
Which leads us to, I think, his biggest move yet, the metaverse. This is where things get really interesting.
Ambitious, for sure. But I gotta admit, the whole metaverse thing, it's still kind of confusing, right? Like, is this progress, or is it like a Zuckerberg-controlled digital world we're all going to live in?
Well, the simple version is it's about a persistent digital environment. You work, play, socialize all through your avatar, blends VR and AR for a sense of really being there.
Okay, I'm kind of getting it.
Yeah.
But why is Zuckerberg so into it? Is this him staying ahead of the curve, or is there something more?
There's a few ways to look at it. Some say it's him distancing himself from all the Facebook baggage, like a rebrand.
So leaving behind the data scandals, election interference, and becoming the metaverse guy.
Exactly. It's a clean slate, new world, new rules, and maybe new problems too.
It's a big gamble, though, right? What if people just aren't into living virtually? What if the tech isn't there yet?
That's the risk he's taking. It's high stakes, betting on the future of tech and how we interact. Could change everything or flop hard.
It's definitely got people talking, that's for sure. But even with the metaverse, he also wants to be seen as, a philanthropist.
Yeah.
The Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, all that.
Right. Billions going to education, research. But it brings up this idea of philanthrocapitalism, which is basically billionaires trying to solve the world's problems.
Yeah.
Sometimes problems their own businesses helped create.
It makes you think, right? Does that kind of philanthropy really fix things, or is it just like making up for the harm done?
And that's a question we're going to get into more, because it gets to the heart of Zuckerberg's legacy. Is he a force for good? Or is there a darker side to all this ambition?
It's crazy, right? Zuckerberg's story is like the whole tech industry in one person. The rise, the disruption, all the ethical stuff.
Yeah, it's like a real-time case study, and we're all part of the experiment.
So let's go back a bit. Before Facebook, before the billions, he was just a kid who loved to code. What do you think drew him to computers so early on?
Well, you see it in those early projects like ZuckNet, right? He wasn't just coding, he was connecting people, solving problems, building bridges almost.
But going from dorms to like the entire world,
Yeah.
that's a huge leap. How did Facebook blow up so fast?
Luck was part of it, timing for sure, but it also tapped into something fundamental, right? That human need to connect. And it was just so easy to use, so addictive almost.
And that massive growth, well, it brought a lot of problems, didn't it?
Mm.
Legal, ethical, The Winklevoss thing was just the beginning.
Oh, absolutely. The bigger Facebook got, the more scrutiny. Zuckerberg had to deal with like intellectual property, privacy issues, accusations of manipulating data.
He almost became like the symbol of everything people were afraid of with social media.
Yeah, he represented both sides, right? Connecting the world, but also the potential for exploitation.
Which brings us back to the metaverse. It's almost like he's trying to, I don't know, start over, build a new world where he sets the rules.
It's a bold move, that's for sure. But is it really about a better future or just more power for him? That's the question.
Because, I mean, the metaverse, it could be amazing, right? Think of the education possibilities, the collaboration.
Imagine like virtual lectures from the best experts, working on projects with people across the world, experiencing art in totally new ways.
But it could also go really bad, right? Everything you do tracked, your data used against you. Living in a simulation controlled by algorithms.
Yeah, there's a real risk of making inequality worse, a digital divide, where some thrive and others get left behind.
And what about, like, the psychological effects? Could spending so much time virtually lead to more isolation, addiction?
All valid concerns. We need to be talking about this stuff now before it's too late to change course.
So where does philanthropy fit in? The Chan Zuckerberg initiative, all that? Is it actually making a difference, or is it just Zuckerberg trying to, like, make up for the bad stuff Facebook did?
It's tough, right? On one hand, using that wealth for good is admirable. But some say it's philanthrocapitalism, basically billionaires trying to fix problems they helped cause.
So it's about power and accountability. Can the people who profited from the problem also be the ones to fix it?
And is money enough? Does it really get to the root of things? Or is it more about PR and legacy?
It's a bigger conversation going beyond just Zuckerberg. It's about wealth, influence, and how they shape the world.
It makes us think about some uncomfortable stuff. Inequality, power dynamics, the unintended consequences of all this progress.
So as we head into the final part of our deep dive, let's shift gears from the past to the future. What's next for Zuckerberg based on everything we've seen? And what does that mean for all of us? It really does feel like a turning point, not just for Zuckerberg, but for like the whole tech world. What he does next, it matters for all of us.
Yeah, he's not just the CEO anymore, right? It's global impact now, every move he makes.
And speaking of moves, we talked about him learning Mandarin earlier. Why do you think that's so important?
I think it shows strategic thinking. He gets the big picture, the global power dynamics. China's huge in tech. And speaking Mandarin, it's like he's building a bridge, tapping into that market.
And it also shows he's not afraid to learn new things, which in tech is essential. You got to adapt or you get left behind. Clearly, he's not slowing down anytime soon.
That's what's kind of fascinating and maybe a little scary, right? This guy's achieved so much, but what's the end goal? What does success even look like for him at this point?
Is it the metaverse? Changing how we interact? Is it philanthropy, making up for any harm done? Or is it something else entirely?
Could be all of the above, honestly. But one thing's for sure, he's not afraid to think big, take risks. Even if it means getting criticized, facing backlash, he keeps pushing forward.
So as we wrap this up, let's bring it back to our listeners. What are the big takeaways here? What can we learn from all this, the good and the bad?
Well, first, I think it's about having a vision and sticking to it. A lot of people thought Facebook was a joke at first, but he saw the potential and, made it happen.
He also shows how important it is to adapt. Tech changes so fast, you got to be able to keep up, change your approach when you need to. Zuckerberg's been pretty good at that.
But maybe the biggest lesson here is ethical awareness, I'd say. His story is a reminder that progress has a cost. We invent new tech, but we got to think about the consequences. Make sure it's used for good.
Because at the end of the day, tech is just a tool, right? What matters is how we use it, what kind of future we're building with it.
That's a great point. It makes you think, right? If you had that kind of influence, those resources, what would you do differently? What kind of world would you build?
It's something to think about. Because the future isn't set in stone. It's made by the choices we make every single day.
Well, that about wraps it up for our deep dive into Mark Zuckerberg. Hopefully it's given you some new insights and some things to ponder about tech's role in our lives.
Definitely. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those tough questions, and keep diving deep.